You are right on time for Maisha Special Report here at Maisha Television Kenya, the fastest growing and, of course, the award-winning TV station. My name is Bushabi Jr. We have a comprehensive 60-minute coverage of what is happening in the country and beyond. Right, you're welcome. Kenya's 47 devolved units are set to receive an extra 46 billion shillings after President William Ruto has assented to the county government's additional allocations bill. The law was forwarded to the President after the National Assembly and the Senate reached a consensus, paving way for increased allocation of funds to county governments. Counties will now be able to unlock much-needed funds by incorporating provisions for additional allocations from proceeds of loans and grants from development partners. A notable allocation highlighted in the bill is the sum to be transferred to the participating county governments in accordance with the conditional allocations framework, amounting to 6.2 billion shillings financed by proceeds from a World Bank loan set for County Climate Resilient Grant.
Reaffirms the administration's commitment to foster inclusive development by strengthening devolution. This commitment is being furthered through a total additional allocation of Kenya shillings 46.4 billion shillings to the county governments for the financial year 2023-2024. The allocation of these resources is intended to enhance the implementation of the administration's plan through provision of the fertilizer subsidy, county aggregated industrial parks, support in construction of county headquarters, provision of library services, enhancement of own source revenue, primary health care, informal settlement improvements, and climate change interventions. This money bill was first introduced in the National Assembly on 6 June 2023 and was passed on 27 June 2023 without amendments. Thereafter, the bill was forwarded to the Senate, which considered and passed it with amendments on to 12 October 2023. Subsequently, the National Assembly considered and rejected amendments by the Senate, warranting the committal of the bill to mediation pursuant to Article 112 and 113 of the Constitution. Consequently, the mediated bill was considered and approved by the National Assembly on 21 February 2024 and thereafter by the Senate on 22 February 2024. Your Excellency, with both houses of Parliament having discharged their law-making mandate, Your Excellency, as the head of state and government, is most graciously invited to exercise your presidential prerogative as vested in new by Article 115 of the Constitution to assent to this legislation. Your Excellency, sir, I now invite the Clerk of the National Assembly to convey the vellum copies of the bill for Your Excellency's presidential assent. The Clerk.
Both levels of government working together and both levels of government working also with the legislature so that we can find mechanisms of us working together without the acrimony that comes with taking ourselves to court. It is our collective decision to find ways of working together harmoniously, finding consensus on matters that are difficult, and listening to one another. Secondly, I'm very happy that now we have resources that will support our counties. Close to 29 billion shillings will be made available by this piece of legislation that has now become law. It will support our counties to discharge their mandate, which is very clear in our Constitution. And because the counties are carrying out mandate assigned to them by the Constitution, and it is our responsibility to mobilize resources and support the counties. I must say that we continuously are working towards making sure that whenever we have resources, it is shared between the two levels of government equitably so that every level of government can discharge their responsibilities. I know last week we paid, is it last week or the week before? The week before, we paid about 31 billion shillings to our counties. We are again planning in the next week or two to pay another substantial amount of money, again to support our counties for them to discharge their responsibilities. I'm also very happy that counties are beginning to also look at other avenues of raising resources. And I want to congratulate governors who are continuously increasing their own source of revenue funds, because that way we make counties discharge their responsibilities without too much intervention and too many hurdles. Let me also say, now we know there has been an outstanding matter of some counties that did not have appropriate headquarters because they were small and they couldn't raise resources from their shareable revenue to be able to do the county headquarters. The government has now made it possible for us to complete that project because the 450 million that we have now allocated to the 5 counties, that money is sufficient to complete the county headquarters in the 5 counties. Additionally, because we are now moving into the planting season, and God has been gracious to us, we have sufficient rain. There will be resources also to support our fertilizer subsidy program that is going to assist our farmers across the country. And I want to ask our farmers, as the fertilizer is made available, let us use the seeds, the fertilizer that has been made available for us to be able to grow food in our country, because it is the only way we can get rid of the shame of hunger in our nation. I want to congratulate farmers across Kenya. Last year, in their activities, we managed to raise the level of food security in our country. We managed to grow more food last year. Maize alone went up from 44 million bags to 67 million bags. Last year also, we got 500 metric tons of cotton seed, and I am very happy that again this year, the government of Kenya is going to supply additionally 500 metric tons of cotton seed, and the price of cotton has now been increased from 52 to 72 shillings a kilo. Continuously, we want to eliminate the importation of cotton into our country so that we can make fabric here, and the exports from Kenya must have cotton that is grown by our farmers, even from our special economic zones. Let me also say on the subject of edible oil, and that is why we are focusing on the partnership between government, the national government and the county government. Last year, we provided seeds for sunflower, because edible oil is one of the big tickets that is consuming our foreign exchange. And it is our plan to reduce the purchase of edible oil, where we spend close to $1 billion every year. We want to reduce that to 50% in the next 3 years, and in 5 years to eliminate completely the importation of edible oil into Kenya, because we believe that sunflower, canola, soya, and palm oil, once we have rolled out fully their development in Kenya, will give us the requisite amount for us to reduce and to eliminate eventually importation into Kenya. It is our commitment as a government that progressively the 500 billion Kenya shillings we used to import sugar, wheat, maize, rice, edible oil, we will reduce it to zero in the next 5 years so that we can save on our foreign exchange and we can empower our farmers by buying from them instead of buying from farmers from elsewhere. So this is a very important piece of legislation. I want to congratulate all the stakeholders and now urge our county governments to move with speed so that we can unlock the programs that are dependent on these resources, and we can all work together towards making Kenya the great country that we all want it to be.
In a significant development, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs Musalia Mudavadi convened a meeting with the African Diplomatic Corps at Radisson Blu in Nairobi County on Monday. During the gathering, Mudavadi passionately emphasized the urgent need for African leaders to unite and collaborate towards the advancement and prosperity of the entire continent.
Climate change is a global problem requiring global solutions, but Africa is enduring the most opposition in the global climate change process to COP28 and beyond. Subsequently, both the Nairobi Declaration of 2023 and COP28 laid ground for a swift, just, and equitable transition underpinned by deep emissions, cut and scaled up climate finance. It is high time that we as Africa take bold steps and take lead in actions that are geared to mitigating rising impact of climate change by taking personal initiatives to plant trees and increase tree cover that arise from climate change. As we are aware, the government of Kenya is committed to planting trees, more than 15 billion trees by 2032. I salute you, the African Diplomatic Corps, who participated on the National Tree Planting Day on 13th November 2023. We have an obligation to safeguard our continent for our future generation, and the time to do so is now. Your Excellencies, let me come to a subject that is grim. The evolving global peace and security problems have compounded the challenges of our time in Africa. Statistically, as of 2023, over 37 million people had been forcefully displaced in Africa. 6 countries accounted for 64% of the forced displacements on the continent, and as at September 2023, 121 million people are facing severe acute food security in selected countries in Africa. In the period between February 2019 and February 2024, conflict fatalities from selected African countries reached 208,000. I don't know whether I can just point out something graphically here. If it's, are they ready there? I thought this is something that we should just look at very carefully. The 37 million figure I've talked about, the 121 million people facing insecurity, and the 208,000 fatalities as at February. Next slide. Now that gives you, right at the top, that is what conflict drives fatalities and forced displacement. Now, the sources are there. Some of you may already have this, but in case you don't, it is important to just have a glimpse of forcibly displaced people, not just in Africa, but it also points to some of the other areas beyond Africa. But it is important that we specifically see that the damage being caused by conflict in Africa is extremely grim and serious. Next slide. Now, the impact on food security, the conflicts that we are facing in Africa, particularly.
Several kids living at a children's home in Muradi, Embakasi, have been left homeless after a fire razed down the facility on Sunday night. Embakasi East MP Babu Wino, formerly Paul Ongili, revealed that the fire was devastating and reduced the entire home into ashes. According to reports, the fire broke out at around midnight, but its cause is yet to be determined. A video that made rounds on social media showed a huge cloud of fire razing down premises at the home, but the extent of damage is yet to be established. The incident came a few hours after Governor Johnson Sakaja visited a team of firefighters nursing injuries after responding to a collapsed wall in Kariobangi. And ODM leader Raila Odinga has castigated Kenya Kwanza legislators for making an about turn on the Finance Act 2023, which saw an increase in taxation and consequently a rise in the cost of living. Odinga termed the lamentations as hypocrisy, as he was called out when he voiced his dissent on the act and cautioned them against backing the punitive act. The former premier further maintained that Azimio must ratify the names of picked IEBC commissioners as agreed through the NADCO recommendations. Indications of an imminent split in the Azimio coalition were evident during the ODM recruitment drive, where the party told off Azimio affiliates over plans to replace Odinga, even before his AUC bid matures, terming them as quote-unquote wolves. The race to oust a Suba Member of Parliament, Karoli Omondi, come 2027 took the ODM brigade, led by party leader Raila Odinga, to Homa Bay County. The area legislator faced a serious onslaught from the ODM leadership following his decision to work with President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza government. Karoli was among legislators that visited State House, leading to a purge undertaken by the ODM party. Former Suba South legislator, who currently is nominated in the National Assembly, John Barry, launched his bid to reclaim his seat from the first-time legislator. This followed an attempt to vie for the county's top position, which would later through a consensus be handed to the current governor, Gladys Wanga. Odinga chose to trade his guns to the Kenya Kwanza legislators, who rallied behind the Finance Act 2023.
That bill was an oppressive bill. It was introducing excessive taxation of our people, including the farmers, because it was introducing a taxation that is called commodity tax, meaning that we are going to even tax things which are products of agriculture.
Some of the legislators, especially from Mount Kenya region, who backed the law, have in the recent past made an about turn following taxes imposed on various commodities, including agricultural produce, but Odinga claims that their actions are full of hypocrisy.
Now, you remember when they were doing campaign, they were talking about returning GMR, guaranteed minimum return. That language has actually now disappeared. Now, I was shocked and surprised to see some members of parliament from the region who voted for that bill now rising up and opposing the implementation of that bill. Shame on them. Shame on them. Shame on them. But what also surprised me was that the member of parliament for this constituency also voted for that bill. Karoli Omondi. Did you send him to vote for that bill?
The former premier and Azimio chief maintains that the coalition, as part of the agreed deal under the NADCO report, must approve the names of IEBC commissioners shortlisted, while insisting that the fight for lowering the cost of living is still on.
The team has agreed, one, that the issue of IEBC will be constituted with our participation, that we must approve the names of those who are going to be members of IEBC.
That even though Raila Amolo Odinga is going to Addis Ababa, we have not changed our position on national issues. Zakayo still remains Zakayo. The cost of living is still too high. The economy is still doing badly.
On his part, Siaya Governor James Orengo decried plans to sabotage and paralyze a devolution.
Serikali ya Ruto inavunja ma-counties, hela hazifiki kwa counties, na hiyo ni kuonyesha kwamba yeye hapendelei kitu ambayo inaitwa ugatuzi.
Azimio politics did not miss out as signs of disintegration of the coalition were in full display over plans to take over from Odinga as the coalition leader before he is yet to even formally present his bid for the African Union chairmanship. ODM leaders are referring to their counterparts as wolves.
Kuna wale watu ambao wameanza kutafuta mbinu ya kureplace baba. Kuna wale ambao wameanza kutenga vikundi. Mtu ambaye amekaa karibu na baba, mheshimiwa Oparanya ako na baba, huyo siwezi kukaa ndiye kwa mambo mingi. Kuna wale watu wameanza sasa, tuko huku, wengine wanasema tuko huku, lakini baba ujue bado niko pale.
Hakuna mahali baba anaenda. Baba atabaki umuhumu. Kule akienda kule yeye ni kutembea tu. Yeye pata ako hapa. Baba ni mumo. Katika Kenya yote baba ni mo. Katika dunia yote baba ni mo. There should never be any doubt about the future of ODM. We are all members of ODM. There is no leadership vacuum in ODM. Our leader remains Raila Amolo Odinga. And even if Raila Amolo Odinga was to go to Addis Ababa, we have a deputy party leader that we call Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya. Na hata kama Oparanya hayuko, we have a chairman called John Mbadi Ngongo.
Last week, Martha Karua of NARC Kenya and Jeremiah Kioni of Jubilee met in Ruiru in a bid to check their political path. On the flip side, there is Wiper leader DAP-K's Eugene Wamalwa and Gideon Moi of Kanu, who had previously disappeared from the public limelight until last week's visitation by Kalonzo's group.
Onge jok manyalo keto ni dwatero chi jaduong ka jaduong pod ngima. Kendo wadwa nyiso jogo igani jakom odiro kidie bungu. Odiro kidie bungu mar Africa Union. To kor waneno ka ng'echo wuok, waneno ogwang'o wuok, waneno kolele wuok, waneno gik magalagala ka wuok e bungu kacha. Ni jok moko wacho ni gin kata Raila onge to gina sawa. Raila e ka chunywa mwayweyo godo. Omiyo wanyonuru piny gik majakom manyo ka maka are beside the point. Our party leader remains Raila Amolo Odinga.
A meeting bringing the Azimio coalition-affiliated parties together to chart a political path following Odinga's AU bid has since been called, but Odinga's allies have continued to reiterate that he will not vacate the position, and when he does, upon winning the AU chair bid, his political influence in the country cannot be withered. For Maisha Prime, Maisha Television, I'm Bushabi Jr. Now, businessman Jimmy Wanjigi has asked Kalonzo Musyoka to retire from politics instead of seeking to take over from Raila Odinga after he showed interest in the AU chairmanship position. In a statement released by the businessman on March 3rd, 2023, Kalonzo has nothing new to offer to Kenyans and instead should usher in a new leadership in his own Wiper party. A few weeks ago, Raila Odinga expressed his desire for the African Union chairmanship position and has seen has seen support from various political leaders, including President William Ruto.
This is a very sad state of affairs as Kenyans continue to suffer. And as they suffer, the conversation has shifted from our issues to issues about power, politics, positions, jobs. Last week, all of you in the media went to focus on the AU. AU, we have issues here in Kenya. A few weeks ago, my very good friend, Raila Amolo Odinga, expressed his desire for the AU chairmanship. And honestly, I believe he is the best man for the job. He will do this country proud and this continent proud. What I don't understand, however, is that since his declaration, the people's agenda, which we were made to believe is his coalition was championing, has been put on hold and he is now the focus. The Azimio coalition is dredging the political landscape and pulling out people who are part of Kenya's problems and presenting them as solutions. As the ruling Kenya Kwanza coalition is busy scheming on how to take credit for Mr. Odinga's candidacy, my friend Kalonzo Musyoka has hit the road positioning himself to take over leadership. And it is my view, and I don't think I'm alone, that Kalonzo Musyoka is best following the path of Raila Amolo Odinga. He has been in elective politics for 40 years. He's part of the old order. He's got no change agenda. He should really be retiring and looking for different leadership in his Wiper party to come up to the national stage. It's a time to hand over to new people, fresh people, younger people. And just as this is all happening, people are focusing on positions. Kenyans are still struggling for a basic meal and school fees. The so-called bottom-up model has become a bottom-down model.
Now, have you ever wondered about the travel and security surrounding President William Ruto just minutes before he lands or takes off at any event? In today's feature, we will provide you with insights into the security protocols involved in the head of state.
The security protocols and activities surrounding President William Ruto's travels are quite comprehensive. Ever wondered about the travel and security activities surrounding President William Ruto just minutes before he lands or takes off at any event? In today's feature, we provide you with insights into the security protocols involved. Private contracted officers responsible for the security of the president report to the venue before President Ruto arrives. They ensure that necessary security measures are in place. Kenya Air Force personnel arrive at the venue shortly after to conduct a patrol and ensure standard security for the head of state. Then, shortly after the arrival of the Air Force at the venue, the next critical personnel to arrive ahead of the president is the president's personal doctor. The presidential personal assistant, accompanied by other private security personnel, lands just before the president. Their presence further enhances security arrangements. President Ruto travels in an opulent plane that soars through the air in style. The airplane's spacious cabin is elegantly decorated. The president sits comfortably, surrounded by advisors and security personnel. The presidential aircraft majestically descends with its powerful engines soaring, while the passengers on board prepare for touchdown. The pilot skillfully guides the aircraft, ensuring a smooth landing. The airplane then taxis towards the designated area. Before the president disembarks, a military honor guard and an eager crowd prepares to welcome the head of state. As the aircraft door opens, President Ruto emerges to the applause and cheers of the crowd, reflecting their respect for him.
Ni kunyorosha management ya hizi kampuni, kwa sababu inawezekana alafu nyinyi wote mtoke, tutaanza mpya ama magani. There are no two ways about it, and I'm not going to go back on it.
Once the presidential safety has disembarked, the presidential aircraft gains speed and prepares for a takeoff. The pilot expertly navigates the aircraft into the sky, with the president being the first to take off. After the president's plane flies away, the PA and the private security leave. The Kenya Air Force personnel are typically the last to depart from the venue. These comprehensive security measures and protocols ensure the safety and smooth excursion of President Ruto's travels and activities before he lands and takes off at any function. Sandra Kidamani, Maisha Prime, Maisha Television.